Welcome to my weekly FPL video. In this one, I'll be looking ahead to game week 17 by taking a look at team selection, an updated watch list with potential replacements for Cunha and Aït-Nouri, my transfer plans and captain selection for the next game week. So let's have a look. Still one game to be played in game week 16, and it's the Bournemouth against West Ham game. I have Jarrod Bowen in this fixture, so hopefully he can deliver. 51 points for me so far, small green arrow. The game week started really well on Saturday. I had Lewis Hall, Gabriel, and also went against Mo Salah, and seeing him only get 5 points was a small victory. But of course, Cole Palmer, my captain, he blanked on Sunday, so that was a disappointment. Cunha, he delivered 9 points, a goal and 3 bonus points for him, but as I'll talk more about later in this video, both Aït-Nouri and Cunha, they might be suspended ahead of game week 17. My double Arsenal attack is starting to get a bit frustrating. Saka and Havertz, they both blanked, Joao Pedro blanked as well, while Kevin De Bruyne, he actually outscored Mo Salah with 1 point, so that was pretty cool. So 51 points so far. As mentioned, Jarrod Bowen, he will play in the last game of game week 16, but let's start taking a look at the team for game week 17. This is my team for game week 17. Looks really good on paper, but later in this video I'll show you that some of those fixtures actually are quite tricky, especially playing against Crystal Palace and Everton at the moment. I have 2 free transfers going into game week 17, and I'll probably use both of them, and I'll explain more in the transfer section in a minute. I actually have a decent bench this game week. Buonanotte playing against Wolves is a good fixture for the Leicester attacking midfielder, and Kirkis is on my bench as well, playing against Man United. As mentioned, Aït-Nouri, he is suspended. He is probably a sell, and the same goes for Cunha. Really tricky fixtures for Wolves coming up, and he might get banned after what happened after the Wolves game. Got into some arguments, actually attacked a staff from the opposition, so Cunha might be looking at some matches from the stands as well. But let's take a look at possible replacements for Cunha and Aït-Nouri. Real quick, before making a transfer ahead of game week 17, I'd advise you to take a look at the suspension tie rope. Some of those players are really popular, and if you have like 2 or 3 of them, it might be wise to consider someone else. When it comes to Aït-Nouri, he is already banned. He got a red card, but when he returns from the suspension, he will only need 1 yellow card before he gets another ban. So at the moment, I actually think that Aït-Nouri is a definite sell. Wolves, as mentioned, have tough fixtures coming up. I've actually made a video about general tips on how to improve your FPL ranking. In this video, I'll talk about the transfer plans and not making early transfers, but there are exceptions, and I think that the Aït-Nouri case at the moment is one of those exceptions, so it's perfectly fine to do an early transfer this game week to avoid further price drops on Aït-Nouri. If you want to watch this video, it's linked down in the description, but for now let's take a look at possible replacements for... So this is the watch list for defenders and possible Aït-Nouri replacements. I've selected 3 players in the same price category, so we should be able to afford them if we sell Aït-Nouri. First out is Milenkovic. He is playing for Nottingham Forest. They have good fixtures coming up, and he is a big threat at set pieces. He scored 2 goals in their last 4 games. Next out is Lewis Hall. He did really well in game week 16 with 2 assists. He's been putting up good numbers all season, and he showed his potential last game week. 4.5, kind of mixed fixtures for Newcastle going forward, so it might be a good idea having Lewis Hall in some kind of rotation. Robinson for Fulham, he did really well in game week 16 as well, and Fulham, they have really good fixtures coming up. I think that one of the most popular transfers ahead of game week 17 will be Aït-Nouri to Robinson, and I think that this is a really good transfer. Robinson, he will probably see his price rise maybe twice ahead of game week 17, and I'll talk more about transfers later on in this video. But for Aït-Nouri replacements, if you need a player around the same price point, these three options should do well going forward. The watch list for forwards as well, especially if Cunha gets a ban, we might need a new forward soon, and I like those players. Evan Nilsson, the biggest differential on the list, 4.6% selected, and Bournemouth still have some good fixtures coming up. The next on the list is Chris Wood, familiar name, selected by 23% of the managers. He has had a really good season so far. Nottingham Forest fixtures have been kind of tricky for the last game weeks, but they are getting better. So I do believe that Chris Wood is a good buy at the moment. The last on the list is Alexander Isak. He is probably the best option, but he's also priced at 8.7, so a little bit more expensive than the other two. He has an expected goal involvement of 3.15, 25% selected, so not to be considered as a differential, but if you have the available funds, I would recommend to upgrade Cunha to Alexander Isak. My transfer this game week will probably be Aït-Nouri to Anderson. I would have preferred getting in Robinson if I wanted a Fulham defender, but if I pick Anderson, I can upgrade Kevin De Bruyne to Mo Salah, and I will talk more about this in a minute. Anderson, he is decent as well. He's been injured, so his price has dropped down from 4.5 to 4.2, but he started when he was fit for Fulham, and last season he showed for Crystal Palace that he is a big threat at attacking set pieces as well. So Anderson at 4.2 will soon come back from injury. I do believe that he is a decent buy at the moment, especially if you can bench him for game week 17. As mentioned, selling Kevin De Bruyne and bringing in Mo Salah has always been the plan, and I might do it ahead of game week 17. I actually really like Mo Salah's fixture, and I will talk more about that in the captain section. When it comes to Kevin De Bruyne, kind of a tricky fixture, playing away against Aston Villa, and Man City's form are not really good at the moment. So he got an assist in game week 16, 6 points, so he outscored Mo Salah last game week, but I think that Mo Salah is a better option next game week. Another potential transfer for me ahead of game week 17 is to sell Cunha, especially if he receives the ban. I will probably bring in Chris Wood. I really like him as an option. I mentioned that Nottingham Forest fixtures are getting better soon. He is nailed on for Nottingham Forest. He is on penalties. Might share some minutes with Avoni going forward because of the congested fixtures, but I think that Chris Wood will play most minutes. The captaincy has not been straightforward recent game weeks, and I do believe that this is the case for game week 17 as well. There are a couple of players with good fixtures, but when we take a closer look at the fixtures, I'm kind of being put off, especially when it comes to Arsenal and their game against Crystal Palace. When we take a look at their defensive stats, they have kept 1 clean sheet, only conceded 4 goals, 5 big chances conceded, 11 shots on target, and have an expected goals conceded of 2.98. So they're only beaten by Arsenal when it comes to the best defensive stats for the last 4 game weeks. So I can't really see this game being a goal fest. So Saka will probably not be my captain for game week 17, but let's have a look at other options. The next on the list is Cole Palmer. He has been one of the most captain players for the last 2 game weeks. In game week 17, Cole Palmer and Chelsea are playing against Everton. They have actually kept 3 clean sheets, only conceded 4 goals, 8 big chances conceded, and 14 shots on target. They have an expected goals conceded of 4.17, so I do believe that Everton actually might not be the best team to target at the moment, so I don't think that I will take the chance and captain Cole Palmer for game week 17. Another option and a really big captain punt is Jared Bowen. He is playing against Brighton. They have kept 0 clean sheets, 9 goals conceded, big chances 10, shots on target 12. They have an expected goals conceded of 5.28. So 9 goals conceded might be a bit unlucky when we consider that they only have an expected goals conceded of 5.28, but I actually like Jared Bowen's fixture better than Saka and Palmer. So at the moment, I'm leaning towards captaining Jared Bowen, but I might also make a transfer to bring in another captain contender. Liverpool and Mo Salah, they play against Tottenham away. As mentioned, my transfer this game week will probably be Kevin De Bruyne to Mo Salah. One of the reasons is that I don't really like my other captain options, and I do believe that Salah could be the best captain option in game week 17. Spurs, they have kept 1 clean sheet in the last 4 game weeks, only 6 goals conceded, but when we take a look at the rest of the defensive stats for Spurs, that's why I'm really tempted to both transfer in and captain Mo Salah in game week 17. Big chances conceded 15, shots on target 25, and Spurs, they have an expected goals conceded of 8.96, which is 18th worst in the league. So really bad defensive stats from Spurs, and I think that there might be a lot of goals in the game Spurs versus Liverpool. Let me know in the comments down below who will be your captain for game week 17.